Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes! Thrive Nation, on today's show, it is a very special occasion because we are beginning to reopen America. By the way, that's a website you should check out, reopenamericanow.org. That's reopenamericanow.org. One more time, reopenamericanow.org, where you can go up there and share your story about how this shutdown has impacted you and your business. Daisy, I have to ask you, you are the queen of the call center. You are the flower of the phones. Yesterday was day 1.
Yes.
Open for Elephant in the Room Men's Grooming Lounge. What kind of responses and reactions were you getting from customers?
So we had an overwhelmingly positive response. It was the most refreshing thing. It actually restored my faith in humanity. Everyone was so excited. First of all, we were the only place open. So apparently Great Clips was supposed to open, but given the mayor's shutdown that is required to go through April 30th, people couldn't actually get their haircut there. So people
For
were
the Tulsa locations.
Right, exactly.
But
So-
Broken Arrow was the only one open.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had, the phones were lit up from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m. last night. It just did not stop. But people were so excited. They're like, yes, I'm ready to get out of the house. I need a haircut. I'm ready to get back to work. And they're super excited about America and freedom. And it was just amazing.
Well, what I want to do on today's show, and I want to do it in about a 15-minute window of time because the phones are ringing, and I want you to be able to obviously answer the phones and help out the folks and lead the charge.
Sure.
But there's a lot of stuff I want to unpack, and I want to specifically attack 3 areas on today's show. So area number 1 I want to attack is the argument of why we need to reopen America now. I want to get into the argument of why we need to reopen up America right now. Let's get into this. Daisy, if you look at the data, initially, if you'll remember, Neil Ferguson came out with a report. Now, Neil Ferguson is the director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics. And he reported initially, he said, the model I've made predicted 2.2 million American deaths and 500,000 European deaths, or UK deaths. And so he said initially he predicted 2.2 million American lives would be lost from the coronavirus and 500,000 British lives. First off, did you have any idea who Neil Ferguson was before this coronavirus panic?
I did not. I've never heard of his name previous to this whole thing starting.
Why?
That's a great question. Well, I just think it's funny. Everyone has suddenly become a scientist with the pandemic starting, but I don't really keep up with the science of things. That's a great question.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Are you familiar with the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics?
Briefly, only from what I've learned from you.
Imagine that the news story came out that said the Saudi Arabian-funded Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics, which was started 6 months ago, and came out and predicts 2.2 million American deaths. Would you have cared?
No.
I mean, if it was like the Mayo Clinic or John Hopkins or something that you knew.
Something credible. Yeah. But I'm like, who is this guy and why are we listening to him? Who is he to call the shots on the fact that we need to shut our entire country and economy down? I think that's absurd.
Now, do you think it's ironic? Do you think it's shocking, ironic? Do you think it's weird? What do you think the connection is that Neil Ferguson is employed by the Saudi Arabian-funded, he's the director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics, when we are in a price war
Yeah.
with the Saudi Arabians.
Yeah.
The biggest oil price war we've ever had, and we're fighting it with the Saudi Arabians. And the only way that we could possibly lose that battle is to convince America to stop traveling. In your mind, is that it all shocking, the coincidence of that, or what? How do you process that?
I think it's super freaking sketchy. And what's terrifying to me is that people are just willing to take this guy's word as gold, and they have no idea that he's tied at all whatsoever to Saudi Arabia. I think that's very concerning.
Now, if you want to read the Neil Ferguson report, and I know you do, because everyone talks about the Neil Ferguson report. So if you want to read the Neil Ferguson report, you can go to thrivetimeshow.com/coronavirus. But I thought the listeners should hear Neil Ferguson's recommendation. Have you seen this video yet?
I have not. No.
Okay, I'm gonna play it for you. This is what Neil thinks we should do to protect ourselves
Oh boy.
from the coronavirus, which, by the way, folks, we initially predicted it would have 2.2 million American deaths. Neil predicted 2.2 million American deaths. Now Dr. Deborah Birx has backed that number down to 61,000 predicted American deaths. And by the way, Pennsylvania yesterday actually removed deaths away from the total because they misattributed many people, and this is happening all over the country. So let me hit play for you. This is Neil the Thrill Ferguson here, sharing his... I don't even know how we stay awake as we listen to this 1.5 minutes, but try to, folks. Here we go. Neil Ferguson.
So I think kind of fundamental decisions have to be made by countries as to whether they're going to follow what WHO is recommending and what the Chinese did. And
now, real quick, Neil, we have this thing called the Constitution, and we actually decided a long time ago our response would be to never follow the Chinese method to anything because they're communists and they can shut their country down and open it back up whenever they want. And we made that decision when we made this crazy thing called the Bill of Rights there, Neil. And so, Neil, we've already made the decision that we have the right, First Amendment right, to peaceably assemble. We've already decided that. But let's listen to what Neil Ferguson has to say. Here we go, Neil. One more time. Just listen to Neil, folks.
So I think kind of fundamental decisions have to be made by countries as to whether they're going to follow what WHO is recommending and what the Chinese did, namely attempt to suppress all transmission, or alternatively try to mitigate, in some sense, control an epidemic, but short of completely stopping spread. And it's an important distinction because in the former case, effectively that's a strategy which, I mean, in theory, if it works, could largely prevent deaths from this infection, but would really have to be kept in place for 12 to 18 months until we have a vaccine available at scale.
12 to 18 months. Neil wants to shut down our country for 12 to 18 months to potentially protect us from the coronavirus that's supposed to kill 2.2 million people. And oh, by the way, listen to Dr. Deborah Birx. Have you heard Dr. Deborah Birx, Daisy, talk about this coronavirus?
I don't like listening to that woman.
Listen to her. This is what she says about Neil's report. Now remember, step one, folks, Neil Ferguson. Remember that name. Neil Ferguson, step one. He's the one who made the report that predicted the death of 2.2 million American lives. And this is what Dr. Deborah Birx, who is the president's leader of this coronavirus task force, listen to what she says about Neil Ferguson's report now. And she said this a month ago. Listen to this.
These are really important facts for the American people. I'm sure many of you saw the recent report.
Now let's look at the word many for a second. Let's look at the word many. The word many means a large number, the majority of people. Do you know anybody that has read Neil Ferguson's report?
No.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Why? Okay,
knows.
listen to her. Listen to her. Listen to this. Listen to this.
Important facts for the American people. I'm sure many of you saw the recent report.
I don't think many people did see the report.
I haven't, no.
Listen to this. Listen, again, the word many, folks, the word many means a large number or the majority of people. Listen to this.
Facts for the American people. I'm sure many of you saw the recent report out of the UK.
Now, I have read this whole thing, but no one has read the whole thing because everyone's watching The Voice.
Yeah.
They're on Facebook arguing.
Tiger Joe or whatever.
They're at church talking about the end of the world. It's the end of the world as we know it. People are having quarantinis. No one's reading the report. Listen to this.
Facts for the American people. I'm sure many of you saw the recent report out of the UK.
Yes, I did.
About them adjusting completely.
Now, why did she say, I'm sure many of you saw the report from there's two lies in a row. What she should say is, I'm sure that most of you have not read the report written by the director of the Abdul Latif, Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics. That, by the way, we're in a price war with these people. And by the way, they don't like us. Why wouldn't she say that?
Well, I mean, it would take away all of her credibility, whatever.
And it would kill the panic.
Yeah.
Listen, and she wants there to be a panic. Folks, listen. The Scarf Queen, Dr. Deborah Birx, she wants there to be a panic. Listen to this.
Out of the UK about them adjusting completely their needs. This is really quite important. If you remember, that was the report that said there would be 500,000 deaths in the UK and 2.2 million deaths in the United States. They've adjusted that number in the UK to 20,000.
Again, folks, from 500,000 to 20,000. Think about that reduction. Now, Daisy, if you have a prediction for 2.2 million American deaths,
Yeah.
and now you're down to 88,000. Now they're down to 61,000.
Yeah.
And we know that in 2017, 2018, that 80,000 people died from the common flu.
Yeah.
And 180 kids died from the common flu. Which is more scary in your mind, the common flu
Absolutely.
or the coronavirus?
The common flu 100 times over. That blows my mind that we're in this situation for something that is less deadly than the flu. I can't wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, well, Ben Carson, some people say, well, that's just something that rich white men are saying. Okay, this is Ben Carson. He's an African-American. Listen to what Dr. Ben Carson, the famous cardiologist, had to say about the coronavirus.
One of the things we don't seem to talk about a lot are the number of people who have recovered, which is going to be about 98% of all the people who get it.
Okay, why don't people know that? Why don't people discuss that, Daisy? What are people talking about online?
Oh, they're talking about the panic. It's
panic.
hype, the
hype,
fear.
the
It's
panic.
contagious.
Oh.
I don't know. I think people are addicted to fear, honestly.
Now listen to this. This is the governor of New Jersey explaining to America that he does not know about the Bill of Rights. He doesn't know about it. Here we go.
So you made that decision, and as I noted before, 15 congregants at a synagogue in New Jersey were arrested and charged for being in a synagogue together. Now, the Bill of Rights, as you well know, protects Americans' right, enshrines their right to practice their religion as they see fit and to congregate together, to assemble peacefully. By what authority did you nullify the Bill of Rights in issuing this order? How do you have the power to do that?
That's above my pay grade, Tucker. So I wasn't thinking of the Bill of Rights when we did this. We went to first of all, we looked at the data and the science, and it says...
It's unbelievable.
It's insane.
Now listen to Scott Jensen, the Dr. Scott Jensen in Minnesota. Listen to what he has to say about how much hospitals get paid every time they check the coronavirus box. Even if you don't have it, if they just say that you have it or might have it. We're talking about over-the-phone diagnosis. I have one client that was diagnosed over the phone. He was told, Jeff Hawley with Boom Mobile was told over the phone that he had the coronavirus. And then he went in, and it turns out he didn't have the coronavirus, but that didn't stop the hospital from making this much money. Listen to this, folks. Listen to this.
We see politicians doing things that aren't necessarily motivated on fact and science. The public's their trust in politicians is already wearing thin.
So what do you say to Dr. Fauci tonight?
Well, I would remind him that anytime healthcare intersects with dollars, it gets awkward. Right now, Medicare has determined that if you have a COVID-19 admission to the hospital, you'll get paid $13,000.
$13,000 there, folks. Now listen to this final fun fact here for you. This is interesting. It'll blow your minds. They have testing. They've been doing it. Stanford's been doing testing. Stanford's been doing a lot of testing. And the Wall Street Journal came out and just reported the findings. And Stanford now finds that there was 55 to 85 times more people that had the coronavirus than what we knew of, which means it's even less dangerous than we thought. And now states like Pennsylvania have come out and said, you know what? We made a mistake. We misattributed many deaths to the coronavirus. So the number of deaths are now going down in certain states. The number of deaths are going down. Like we're removing the number of people that died. People are somehow being healed. They're being brought back to earth. Okay, now listen to what Governor Cuomo has to say about people that want to get back to work. This is incredible. A lady asks him when she can go back to work, and this is what he says. Listen to this beautiful, beautiful man. Listen to him, Governor Cuomo.
I get the economic hardship. Everybody gets it. Everybody feels it. If you want to go to work, go take a job as an essential worker. Do it tomorrow. No, there are people hiring. You can get a job as an essential worker. So now you can go to work and you're not going to kill anyone.
Newsflash, I can't become a nurse tomorrow.
Unbelievable. Listen to him. Listen to Governor Cuomo one more time.
I get the economic hardship.
I don't think you do because you get paid every day, you jackass.
Exactly.
I get the economic hardship.
I don't think you do because you're a jackass.
I get the economic hardship.
No, you don't, Governor Cuomo. No, you don't. You don't get it because you are wearing a suit and you get paid every day.
Yep.
I get the economic hardship. Everybody gets it. Everybody feels it. You want to go to work? Go take a job as an essential worker. Do it tomorrow. No, there are people hiring. You can get a job as an essential worker. So now you can go to work and you're not going to kill anyone.
Folks, do you want to listen to these people? I don't think you do. Daisy, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say they're laying off people in hospitals. Like I know somebody that we work with in a local hospital in Tulsa.
Hillcrest is laying off a large number of their employees. Hillcrest Hospital right here in Tulsa.
And so this, or my coworker, Alana's husband works at St. Francis. They've turned his entire floor into a COVID unit. He's had 2 patients this entire time, none of which have died. And they sent him home from work early on Sunday because there's no work for him to do. Right.
Now look at this. This is the hospital in New York. We have one of our thrivers. He's a wonderful guy. His name is James. He's an attorney, Attorney James here. And this is video he shot at one of the busiest hospitals. This was reported on the news that this hospital's overwhelmed. Look at the footage of it. Here we go. It's on Good Friday.
This is Lenox Hill Hospital in Manhattan on the corner of 13th Street and 7th Avenue in Manhattan.
Now look at him. He goes up to the lobby. Look at this.
And it's a ghost town.
Anybody in line at all to go into this hospital.
Folks, it's a hoax.
Mm-hmm. The media is not our friend. It is very much our enemy.
It's a hoax. It's a hoax, folks. And so now it's time to open up our country again. Daisy, tell the listeners out there about the hot promotion we have at Elephant in the Room right now.
Yes.
From now until May 1st. Tell the listeners about what we're doing because so many listeners who are listening in Northeast Oklahoma want to come in and get that haircut.
Come in and get your haircut. So your haircut is going to be $1. Whether you've been in with us before or not, it is only $1. Also, if you don your most patriotic apparel, red, white, and blue, American flags, bring your bald eagle, you get entered into a drawing for a chance to win a 50-inch flat screen TV.
One more time. What's the hot deal? What's the hot deal? How do they claim the hot deal?
Yes, so you come in and get your haircut. It is only $1. And we donate that $1 to Compassion International, which is a nonprofit organization that gives food, education, and medical care to kids in third world countries. And when you bring or don your most patriotic apparel, we're talking American flags, red, white, and blue, bring your bald eagle, you get entered for a chance to win a 50-inch flat screen TV.
Now, folks, if you're listening today and you have been shut down, whether your business has been deemed essential or non-essential, if your business has been shut down or your business has been negatively impacted by the coronavirus, and it has, if you're looking for that paycheck protection funding, if you're looking for the paycheck protection funding, email me right now to info@thrivetimeshow.com. That's info@thrivetimeshow.com. Info@thrivetimeshow.com, and I will get you connected with banks that are lending that paycheck protection funding right now. Again, if you need that paycheck protection program funding and you don't know how to get it, you haven't got it yet, please email me today at info@thrivetimeshow.com, and I will make sure that I personally coach you down the process to get you funded. We just got 3 more Thrivers funded. This just came across my desk here. We got 3 new Thrivers funded by the Paycheck Protection Program just now. And I don't want anybody to get left out here. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!